Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Comics Cube. Geoff Thorne returns. And with his return is John Stewart, the
Oh
Emerald
Lord,
Knight.
the
Uh,
Emerald Knight. Yeah.
Out on the 29th of November. Of course, when we last left John Stewart in your Green Lantern run, he had lost his ring, but he had ascended, and he had chosen the path of the Emerald Knight. What has
Yes.
happened in between? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I am not reading Dark Crisis.
Well, Dark Crisis. Okay. Two things that have to be stipulated. I did not know Dark Crisis was coming, which I think as much has been made of the fact that I was not told Dark Crisis was coming. And I have no idea what's on the other side of Dark Crisis. That's not just in terms of Green Lantern. That's anything. Everything that's coming out in the news and is coming out of the New York Comic Con right now, I'm learning it exactly the same way the public is learning. So at some point, editorial said, hey, you left your book on a cliffhanger. Essentially, I'm guessing they haven't decided what they want to do next, right? Like, they didn't say, so this is your swan song or anything like that, but they said you left on a cliffhanger, which is not being touched on at all with Dark Crisis, because Dark Crisis is going to take place after whatever you're doing is largely complete. We haven't put a specific date on Dark Crisis, so the things that are going on in Dark Crisis can take place and not change whatever's going on in the current books. No one's going to, I don't know, like if somebody got killed or something like that, it's not going to affect Batman, it's not going to affect Superman, it's not going to affect any of that, because Dark Crisis is taking place way in the future, or 5 minutes from now. We're not being specific, right? So could you write a one-shot that gets us from the end of your first arc to where John is when we see him in Dark Crisis? Philip Kennedy Johnson, I believe, wrote the John Stewart tie-in issue. We had a very long conversation about John and what I had planned for him, and he was gifted at that point with all of the work that I had put in on John over the last year. I guess the implication was that they had not really been looking at it. This is just my guess. And I don't attribute that to anything except the crazy turmoil that's been going on backstage at DC Comics. So
And Warner Brothers.
I think, and Warner's, that's what I mean. Just like, people have no idea, and they really need to give these folks a break. You don't know. Everybody needs to shut the hell up. They don't know what the hell's going on. And it is the worst for all of the people who aren't the creatives, frankly. Because my job didn't really change that much. I give all props to the editorial group, because although there were some failures in the sense of I didn't know what was going on in another book or this big event that was coming up or whatever, on the other side of that, they didn't really mess with my stories at all. So like all of that upheaval really didn't change much of anything. It did at the beginning, which is why I'm writing Green Lantern. But during, no, I did not feel a single bump because of whatever was going on at DC. So I give them that. So the Emerald Knight one shot picks up. Remember, time moves differently in the dark sectors. So it picks up possibly only a week in real time since John went back, but quite a while has passed. Quite a while has passed. So we're coming to a crux moment. It has nothing to do with the crux world, but it's an important moment in the ongoing fight to clear the dark sectors. It is not a put all the toys back in the box story. It is not there were things that were shown to have already occurred in Dark Crisis. Since you're not reading it, there are a couple of shots of the entire Green Lantern Corps, which obviously I had killed most of them in the first arc. Jessica Cruz is back in her green uniform. Simon is drawn the way he used to be drawn back in the 90s. all of the stuff that we sort of did seems to have been glossed away. But again, we don't know how long in the future Dark Crisis is. So it was a difficult question to not answer in this story. So we get to see the rise of the Emerald Knights. We get to see the germination of the Emerald Knights. We get to see what John is like with a little bit better handle on his powers as an ascended being. We get a better explanation of what he is and how it works. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a hell of a lot of fighting. There's a hell of a lot of stuff blowing up. Some people die, but this is not I think getting a reputation for being bloodthirsty. This is not that kind of book. This is not that kind. So if you're coming for here's how Simon and Jess and the entire Green Lantern Corps gets to the position that they're in Dark Crisis, you're going to be disappointed because this ain't that book. This is a book about John Stewart. I keep telling people I came to tell a John Stewart story, and by God, I'm telling a John Stewart story. Okay, so that's what this is. The artwork, Marco, I tried to write something that Marco would just have, and Mike would have a field day with. So the imagery is just top shelf. Like it's Kirby-tastic, it is a cast of thousands, it is cosmic as hell, it is epic as hell. At one point I was writing and I was like, guys, can I have a couple extra pages? Because I don't know if I'm gonna, and they're like, Geoff, it's 40 pages. And I was like, oh, right, I thought it was 30 pages. Great, forget I called. you know, so it is an epic story, and I guarantee you people won't see the end coming. No way. And you, of all of the people who read this run, will be gratified by the end of this book.
I am looking forward to that because I don't know what you mean.
Well, they spoiled something. The marketing guy spoiled something that I told you look out for in issue 12 of the Green Lantern Network. This is the arrival of the Source in the person of Jack Kirby. The thing that happens at the end of this story isn't something that anyone's going to use as a selling point, so it's not going to come up. So when you get there, you're going to be like, he's out of his damn mind. I cannot believe they let him do this.
Is it you? Do you show up?
No. I don't do self-inserts, man. No.
You're not pulling a Grant Morrison on us?
Not at all. Not at all. The closest we're ever getting to that was the arrival of the king, Mr. Kirby. So, and I'm the third person to do that trick. And I'm happy to be the end of the trifecta. And what is it, hat trick? And now Mr. Kirby's his power shall be known throughout all the giant universes.
The other two people who pulled that trick are Alan Moore and Mark Waid. That is good company.
You know, I'm not mad at any of that, and was absolutely cognizant of that when I did it. DC had not had that done, and I was in a position to do it, so I did it. A lot of my choices are boiled down to that. Like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do it. I really, the best thing about all of this to me so far has been, I got to meet Marco and Maria Laura.
Really?
They are just fantastic. Well, not personally, I'm saying in working with them. It's fantastic working with them. Mike's coloring has really just, it has just made the book a sublime experience for me. Like, in a different world, I wouldn't want to release those sort of giant size these hardcover giant size editions that they do sometimes, just black and white, just to show the amazing pencils and inks that are coming through. Like, you could just do that, and then Mike gets his hands on it, and you're just like, right? So this is going to be some Star Wars craziness. It is lots of stuff blows up, lots of people get killed. But we see the rise of the knights, and some people are already dead when we rejoin.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, Marco posts his black and whites on his socials, and they already look
on
good.
Instagram,
Yeah.
he's a madman. He's a monster, right? But in every great way. Like I literally was like, well, look, I don't know what's coming next. The odds are high that whatever DC chooses to do with the Green Lantern mythology, the stuff I had been asked to do, in which they are fully aware of that I was going to do, I'm not certain it's going to fit with what seems like is coming out of Dark Crisis. I would hope that some of it would be salvageable, but already in Dark Crisis, they've solved the mystery of where Kyle was. So Kyle's back in the game. He got away. They said where he was. So what I was going to say about where he was, that's gone. Can't do any of that. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. Like,
yeah,
did you
that
get any
that
input on
whole
that at all?
that
No.
nope. I was just surprised everybody else. But so what that means is that particular thread is dead. So if you would like, my friend, I can tell you what I was going to do.
Absolutely.
All right. So Kyle's body was found by Kyle's body was found in space, and that lab that you saw him in was Kyle's corpse. Kyle was being experimented upon. His ring was being experimented upon, even though it theoretically lacked energy, by the people who built Kelly's glove.
Oh.
Yeah. And what they were going to do with the information they got both from his body and from that ring, that defunct ring, was going to help them improve the technology that allowed them to create that glove. And then a person wielding that technology would have shown up to cause the Green Lantern Corps fix. Kelly's glove is gone, and no, she would not have gotten a replacement from those people. I had a whole other plan for Kelly. It would have been awesome, but those two stories were going to dovetail. And since that line is gone, what I was going to do with Kelly is also gone. So,
so wait.
yeah.
So how would you have brought Kyle back to life?
The how do I say this right? Corpse in the science side of the DC universe is different than corpse for human. So they had an intact body that was basically frozen, quick frozen in space, and they got him in time. So theoretically, had this arc, if that line of the arc had been allowed to continue, Kyle would have awakened with fragmented memory as the servant of those people. And then the good guys, led by Guy, would have had to pull him out of that and rescue him. There's a whole complex thing that I will tell you when I see you, but it doesn't matter because none of that's happening. The way they did it, Kyle just busted himself out with a big gun, and he's back with the other guys. I'll tell you, and you'll weep for what would have happened. Kyle was about to get, everybody's mad at me for jacking up John. I was about to do something to Kyle they would be talking about for years. Oh my God. That White Lantern stuff would have been a faint memory after what I was about to do to Kyle.
Ion.
No. He's going to be, well, here's the thing. It's hard to say this stuff without, there's other things that could still be intact, so I don't want to blow those things. But the thing I hate about comics right now, and have for some time, has nothing to do with the Green Lanterns in specific. It's that corporate minds have decided that there should be 90 Spider-Mans and 90 Batmans and 90 Supermans and 90, even though there's thousands of Green Lanterns, there should be 9 Earth Green Lanterns. And as a fan, that's unsatisfying. The only groups that sort of works for would have been the Green Lanterns if Hal or John or Kyle or whoever was the only one from Earth. That's the only way that really should work. The Flash family is really the only one that I can sort of let it go, sort of. And even that, I had a long talk with Dan DiDio when I was coming in, and he seemed to agree. There should only be one Flash. That is to say, the person who's connected to the Speed Force should be the Flash. No one else should be able to tap the Speed Force. No one. Now, there could be other speedsters, and they can all run really fast, and they can do stuff, maybe some of which the Flash can't do. But in terms of the Speed Force, that belongs to the Flash. And so if you want someone to be able to run at cosmic speeds, the only person you should go to would be the Flash, right? There's no substitute. It's like, oh, Flash is busy, let's get Jessie quick. No, she ain't fast enough. You're gonna have to figure something else out if it's about speed, because Flash is not here, right? Instead, from a marketing, I'm guessing, point of view, Superman is supposed to be the last child of Krypton. The only one I will give them is Supergirl, and only because she was created so far in the past. Right?
How dare you say that about Crypto?
Well, Crypto, whatever. Crypto's a dog. But I'm saying there should be no other Kryptonians, period.
Including Phantom
Period.
Zoners.
Well, that's the one caveat, and it should be this. If the, as in the movies, if the Phantom Zone breaks or whatever, however you want to interpret the Phantom Zone, they get out, and that's like a giant crossover event that takes a year at least to solve, at the end of which, who's left? Cal and Kara, and that's it. Okay? Because there's a lot of conversation about every comic is somebody's first, but if you keep making these changes to dilute what makes the thing, why you like the thing, it isn't a matter of race swapping or gender swapping. None of that dilutes it. There's Jay Garrick was the Flash.
Yeah.
Barry Allen was the Flash. Wally West was the Flash. But during those periods, up until relatively recently, there was only one. Even Kid Flash got his powers by sort of being loaned them, sort of, by that main Flash, right? Like Toro and the Human Torch. Toro never ignited until he hooked up with the Torch. He was just sort of a flame-proof mutant until the Human Torch showed up.
Yep.
Right. So 9,000 Amazon Wonder Woman's running around? No, Diana. Now, and there's a lot that can be done with these people. Like, I had a whole pitch for the Wonder Woman that I'm never going to do. Wonder Woman, by the way, is like getting a gold medal, right? The way she got that job was by out everythinging all the other Amazons. But it's a contest. It was an established contest, sort of like how you get to be the king of or queen of Wakanda. So yeah. What? They only did that the one time, and now it's just Diana forever? No, they should periodically redo it. And some other Amazon kicks her butt. She doesn't make it this time.
They did that once with Artemis.
With Artemis. And I thought that was genius, by the way, because you still followed them both. And Artemis was the worst Wonder Woman. She got a better idea. She was terrible. She was as bad at being Wonder Woman as Azrael was at being Batman, yes. Which was the point, which was the entire point, right? So that when the person who's supposed to be Batman gets the cowl back, right? You're like, oh, thank God. I mean, that guy was cool, but he wasn't Batman, right? So this dilution leads me to the question that the editorial had asked me to do with the Green Lanterns when I came in. Can we scrub them out? Can we do something about these, what is it, 7 or 9, depending on how you want to count, that are from Earth? Can we do something about it? And so the easy thing would be, oh, well, I'll just kill everybody except Hal, who can't be killed, and Joe, who you want, and I'm going to take John over here, so that's fine. I just kill all, if I wanted to, in that blast, I could have left only 4 people standing if I wanted to. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make those people who had fan bases have somebody unique to look at, right?
And so you can't kill Kilowog, Jeff.
I'll spoil this. Kilowog's fine.
Yeah.
Kilowog's fine. Right. Well, we dodged the bullet of Future State within the run. All the stuff that happened in that Future State flash forward clearly didn't happen because John didn't choose that future. So that's it. But yeah, so all of that stuff added up to Kyle. What can we do with Kyle, right? Kyle was the only Green Lantern for 10 years. He was the only one. There was no Core. There was no Hal. Hal was the Spectre, right? There was nothing. And then he gets shoved into the back, like all the others, when Rebirth happens. He just becomes one of the secondary guys. And they talk about the Four Horsemen, but those other three guys were just adjuncts to Big Boy Hal. Why not make each one, like, I love Guy Gardner Warrior. I love that because it made him unique. An ex-Green Lantern with these Voldarian or whatever they were powers that were crazy, and it made him a living weapon in a completely new way. And I was like, this is dope, and it fits his personality. Cool, do this, you know. So I was going to do something similar with Kyle. He was going to get a power upgrade. He was going to get a new name. And he would have been a formidable sometime ally and sometime adversary, depending on what was going on cosmically, of the Green Lantern Corps, who were many of them his old friends. Yeah. And it would have made him unique. It would have been a lot of engines for story that I would have never written. But, and by the way, there was a whole arc that was going to, you know, complete his sort of reawakening and coming into his power. And then at the very end of the third arc, our Four Horsemen with all their new different attributes would have put down what the big bad guy is, right? Which there's a big bad guy underneath all of this. So that arc's dead, though. I mean, that line is dead. Kelly, her glove was destroyed getting rid of Koyos.
Yeah.
So she's just a chick in a coma on Oa, right? Where the Green Lanterns, who people seem to have glossed over this, Joe made every single ex-Green Lantern a citizen of Oa. So that's their planet now. There are no Guardians anymore. So they are the Owens. And now they've got to build a society based on whatever they can thrash out. And there's all these people that used to work in the city and the various archives, and all those people, they have to rebuild, right? There was going to be a place for Kelly. I was going to bring in Tai Pham from the Legacy Elseworlds book. They were going to get paired up in a very interesting adventure. I will tell you some of these things when I see you, because again, I don't know.
You don't know
what's being kept and what's not being kept. But remember, I was brought in to do something fairly drastic over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I was going to do something for a year, something else for another year, and then in the third year, finish it out and walk away. I don't know that any of that's happening now, because Dark Crisis has already erased one of those threats, or two if you count the Kelly, three if you count bringing in Tai Pham. So that makes me unhappy, but unhappy in a really mild way. Like, we don't own these toys, and editorial changes happen all the time. And if they said they were going to go right 2 years ago, and then they decided after a regime change, we'd like to go left. Like, okay, you know, my contract's up. They owe me nothing, and I owe them nothing. So I did what I could do. I think we're going to come out of Emerald Knights with John in a very interesting place that people can pick up or not, depending on who finds it interesting, what we do. I'm happy with it. Marco is going crazy on this art. And I told the guys at DC, if there's interest after this one shot, I'm happy to come back and keep telling them stories. I did not build the Emerald Knights to have them just sit. So if you guys want to use them and I'm free, I would be thrilled to be the guy to use them. What will probably happen is they'll show up in somebody else's thing and they'll all get killed. But, you know, not if I have anything to do with it. You know, it's just the way comics work. You can't get married to any of this stuff. All you can do is put stuff out there and see what sticks. I mean, the Bright Circle's still out there. We did that. I introduced PFL, who's a really cool Kaluan that people can use if they want. Amira Kalan is still out there being some version of a Hawk person. So, you know, if people want to use them, they're there for you. They can get killed or not. You know, ignored or killed, or something cool to them. Doesn't really matter. I'm interested to see what they do. I'm interested to see what their plans are. We know that the Green Lantern show is still in the works. They may be holding off on anything Green Lantern until that thing is locked in, rock solid, and then they'll probably do something that more closely relates to whatever, if they're smart. something that more closely relates to whatever story is being told in the Green Lantern show. That would be my guess, which is why they're keeping their powder dry, so to speak. They know my thoughts, they know my wishes, they know what the original plans were. So
Yeah.
it's kind of on them to decide if they want to go forward in that direction. Like I said, if the last thing I get to do with the Emerald Knights is this one shot, I will feel very happy with the work that we put. And
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
I do think it's funny that you said what will most likely happen is somebody else will use them and kill them off, because one of my favorite comics ever is Starman by James Robinson, Tony Harrison, Peter
Oh
Snavely.
Christ, I love that. I love
Right.
that.
And by the end of Starman, it wasn't just Jack. I was like, oh man, I love this version of Ralph Dibny, and I love all of these other guys. I would really like to see them more.
James Robinson did something with that nothing character. I mean, Starman, let's get real. And he picked it up, and this is what Morrison did with Animal Man.
Yeah.
They picked up two ridiculously stupid, who cares characters and turned them into freaking gold. And the next people came in and went, no, let's go back and have it be the guy in the red suit. Let's have Stargirl instead. And I'm like, I don't know if that was the wisest choice. But again, you know,
right.
This stuff is written in sand.
Right.
Like, you can't, Robinson's epic, beautiful work is still there to be read and enjoyed.
Yes.
I loved his Opal. I'm surprised no other writers that put anything in Opal. Like,
I think Darwin Cook did for Catwoman, but that was it.
Oh, which one? During when? Like, when he was, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Because why? Because I love them and they're on my bookshelf. Darwin.
But I was like, yeah, I love these guys. And then like 5 years later, Identity Crisis happens and Ralph Dibny is dead, and Infinite Crisis
Sue Dibny?
and Sue Dibny's dead. And then Infinite Crisis happens, and the first scene in Infinite Crisis is in Opal City, and everyone dies. The Phantom Lady dies, Black Hunter dies.
And I'm like, and I'm sure there will be people in your comments like, isn't this the guy who murdered all the Green Lanterns? He killed Arisia, right? Except, guys, I had a plan. I wasn't just killing anyone. Nobody was going to just be dead. Everybody was going to be transformed into something interesting.
I'd say that was apparent from issue 12.
Right. Like, what was all that going on with Simon? Who were those people with their ring body? What was all of that? Right? Well, I know, and it's possible none of you ever will. And, it's like everybody got so hyped out because I don't like Hal. I don't need to like Hal. I don't have any. By the way, what I was going to do with Hal was going to be cool as hell. It just wouldn't be something it was going to be a setup for other people to write him, but it would have placed him in a very interesting, special position for Hal, one in which he has never occupied. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like what I was going to do with Hal was going to be, what if James Bond was suddenly forced to be M? And how much would he enjoy that job? Not at all. Right? He'd want to go out and put his hands on things. Right? I'll do it. You guys are stupid. I know how to do this. But you're in charge. Yeah. Well, here's what we're going to do about that. So everybody, there was a plan for every single one of these nights.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the thing was, it was your job to write Hal, right? So I'm like, it doesn't really matter if you like them, because like when he got the last minute rescue in number 11, I don't even like Hal, and that's an awesome moment.
I told you guys, Hal's going to be Hal. It's just that everybody has their characters, right? There are characters that I would not, like, for instance, I'm never going to get on the X-Men. It's never going to happen. But I promise you folks, if I'm ever on the X-Men, Gambit ain't going to be on my team. I do not like Gambit, okay? I joke around about it, but I also don't find him interesting. So there's nothing in my head that's going to make me think, oh, you know what'd be cool here? Gambit. That's just never going to happen. So whatever team it is, you can guarantee Gambit ain't going to be on it. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't show up, because I really like Rogue.
Yeah.
So if you're using Rogue, Gambit probably has to make some kind of appearance, or you're not doing your job right. And when he shows up, I'm not going to clown him and make fun of him and make him look stupid. Somebody likes Gambit. I'm just not one of them. So I mean, I don't. People take this stuff so close to heart, and I'm just like, isn't it supposed to be fun? Like, I don't see where the fun is in this attitude. So the point is, I don't know. I just don't know. And the truth is, the longer DC waits, my other career is going to cause me to have to say no, even if they ask me.
Talking animation.
Or live action.
Or live action. Or video games. We'll get to that in a bit.
That's weird. That's just some weirdness. I happen to know some people who happen to call me in on some stuff. But the truth is, I'm a TV writer. So I was happy to do these things, but I was on shows. I was co-EPing 2 different shows when I started writing at DC, one and then the other. And I was sort of squeezing all this in because I love comic books. But if I'm running a show, I won't have any time, right? Or if it's a really small staff show and there's only, I don't know, 6 of us or 4 of us, I won't have any time. I will literally have 0 time. So even if I were inclined to say yes, I would not be able to. So I hate it when Hollywood people would say yes to projects and some of them still aren't finished. Right?
You mean,
they
like,
pick one issue up.
I'm
not going to name names. I'm not naming names. I'm just saying we got a lot of advertisement about some people coming in to write certain books. We got a first issue out of them, and then that's nothing. And it's been a decade. Where's my second issue?
Some of them have been
That's
around
all
for
I'm
2
saying.
decades.
That's what I'm saying. Where's my second issue? I'm still here, man. I bought that first issue. How does the story end? Right? What, you're still thinking about that? How does the story end? How does the story end? You made some promises. How does the story end? Right? So I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to ever carve out something and then not be able to do it.
Yeah.
I've told all my editors, guys, coming up on the end of 2022, got some stuff brewing. If any of it hits, I need to have my schedule locked in pretty early into 2023, or I won't be able to say yes. So we shall see. Other pitches, other stories, all kinds of craziness going on. And there's still Milestone sitting out there, which I'm in love with. So, you know.
Green Lantern, John Stewart, the Emerald Knight, he is still fighting Essak, which the last time we saw Essak, he was in the arms of Lonar.
That's true. But Lonar has said point blank, I'm not killing him.
Yeah. So I like to imagine they're still there.
You said that, and you're crazy. There's no way that's. No, I think John put a big hole in Essak's game plan.
Yeah.
And once he went back to Oa, there's no real reason to hold Essak because his plans have been destroyed. So, but remember, when we rejoin the story from John and the people inside the Dark Sector's point of view, a long time has gone. They've been battling Essak for quite some time again. So it's interesting. Like I said, the story is fairly granular. Like, you have to read the words. Part of the reason I think you caught certain themes is you actually read it. Like, you can't just skim it. You have to actually read these things because there are clues throughout. There are things that are said throughout. The reason that you peg the difference between Essak and Koyos was because you read it. Not because the pictures wouldn't have told you that.
No.
Right? They're beautiful, but they wouldn't have told you that. You had to read it. And so there's a bit of that here. Like, you'll see when you get to the end. I do some things that are explicit that I tried to be subtle about in the run. This time I'm going to make sure everybody understands what the hell's what. Let's just say the kids who like to come in and sleep at the back of class, even they will understand this. So normally I don't care about them, but this time I want to be sure everybody gets
it. Which familiar characters can we expect?
You'll see Kilowog, you'll see
Salak
has a speaking role. Salak has a speaking role. Belu Kens has a speaking role. Isak has a speaking role. There's brand new villains that you've never seen before. One in particular, I hope, if I didn't get to do anything else with John Stewart and the Emerald Knights, this bad guy, I would want to come back and just write this bad guy. But Isak has many forces at his disposal. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. So yeah, you'll see them. You will see Ilo.
Any of the new gods?
Lonar
Lonar's still there?
He remains interested in John's journey. He very much remains interested in John's journey. The other thing too is, essentially I'm writing a science fiction novel here, with a lot of action in it, but Star Wars is not science fiction, it's science fantasy. Right?
There's a whole thing right now about that.
Star Wars is science fantasy. And I don't think anyone with a brain, certainly not its originators, would disagree with that. It does not use hard science to tell its story. In fact, if it were mired in hard science, you could not tell its story. So the same is kind of true for the Green Lanterns. And in fact, all of DC. You can tell a hard sci-fi story, but it's massively difficult to do so. I got as close with Green Lantern trying to tell sci-fi story as I could, a real sci-fi story, and I'm using the rules of the universe that I was given to try and do that. So there's a lot more of that in this book too. I'm also old. I remember certain concepts when they were introduced, and I'm kind of a purist about that stuff. I don't just go like, here's something that I hope I'm not insulting any particular writer. The anti-life equation is a formula. It is not a person. The anti-life equation, see that word equation? That tells you what the anti-life equation is. It is not a being. Okay, so everything that pushed towards that, nonsense from my point of view as a writer. So things like that I ignore. Everything like that I completely ignore. But I did want to get into the nitty-gritty of how gods work in the DCU. So there's more of that in the Emerald Knights. What's the difference between a god and an ascended? Considerable. For one thing, I don't know if I say it explicitly in this book, but there's actually a reason why Lonar won't kill Isak. He's a good guy. Lonar is a good god. He cannot kill Isak. He could murder the hell out of somebody from Apocalypse, but he cannot kill a new Genesee. Just there, he can't. Physically cannot do it. So I wanted to get into that a little bit. Whereas an Ascendant, they can kill the hell out of a god anytime they want to. So anyway, my headphones are going to die in a minute. I may have to switch.
Cool.
So yeah, so there's a lot to squeeze into 40 pages, but I think we did it.
There's a lot of talk, since you brought it up, there's a lot of talk about what constitutes sci-fi, what constitutes fantasy. So coming from someone such as yourself, what do you think? How would you describe the differences between the two?
Fantasy, there's a fuzzy border. Okay, science fantasy is Star Wars. Star Wars is everybody speaks the same language. Gravity is uniform everywhere. Every planet has the same breathable atmosphere, regardless of the species that have grown up on it. Certain physical forces are clearly not in play. The speed of light is apparently not a limit, even when you're not in hyperspace. If you can stand on a planet and watch the beam coming from that planet that was now a Death Star, spreading out across the galaxy and hitting other planets, and you can see that from the surface of the planet you're on, that's science fantasy, folks. That none of that was visible from the surface of any planet, unless you were on the planet where the beam was hitting. And then only then all you'd see is a big bright light,
Yeah.
right? Coming your way. Things like that. There's a certain amount of necessary plausibility in a true science fiction story, right? If you now there's clearly a sliding scale. Star Trek is barely science fiction, barely makes it a science fiction, and only because they will occasionally really like try to shore up whatever they're saying with an actual invention or scientific principle or something like that. And because it's closer to science fiction, the real world has mimicked it, so that now we all walk around with communicators in our pockets. That device was created because the creator of the cell phone was like, I think that's cool on Star Trek. We should have those. And now we do. So this is much more of a give and take there. But even that is closer to science fantasy, largely due to budgetary and makeup constraints and special effects constraints that still affect such a show. Everybody looks basically human with ridges or extra limb or something like that, which of course evolution on another planet would go a completely different way. The idea that there's anyone for us to talk to out there is insane. Okay. We can't even talk to freaking dolphins and octopi. I don't know what anyone's thinking. Like, if we meet any aliens who are truly alien, that's a whole rant. That's a whole TED Talk rant. Okay. But yeah, so the difference is, could the story be told without real science under it? Okay. The answer to Star Wars is absolutely yes. There's almost no real science going on in Star Wars, almost zero. Okay. Sorry, folks, but you don't need it to be more. It's clearly a fairy tale written for children. Even George Lucas said it was a fairy tale written for children. I think he knows.
Yeah.
Just going to throw that out there. He probably knows what the story was for, right? But, and Star Trek originally was basically just, what do you call it? Wagon train in space. It was just an excuse to tell certain kinds of stories. Like the creation of the transporter, there are books written about all the tech that supposedly works in Star Trek. And it's like, do you know how much energy it would take to do just the transporter? There's no way. Like, it doesn't matter because you're not supposed to be thinking about that stuff. But real science fiction, so-called, would be something like, what's his name who wrote The Andromeda Strain, or frankly, Jurassic Park. That's real science fiction, the novels. 2001.
Okay.
2001 is it's a little bit it gets a little bit in terms of extrapolation of alien species and cultures, but for the most part, it follows the rules of the real world, essentially. And even more so with 2010, which actually I think is a superior film. I know, tough shit. I think it's better. I'm trying to think of true science fiction stories. The Matrix, not science fiction.
Okay.
It's not. It's great. Love it deeply, but it ain't science fiction. It is a fable. Science is substituted for magic in a lot of these so-called science fiction pieces. The Martian, science fiction. Even though they had to take a lot of liberties with the movie to make it work in terms of, what is it, 2 hours or less. For the most part, that was well-sourced, well-grounded world building up from the bottom, where, yeah, there's a lot that wouldn't really work, but the story could not be told without real science. Okay, but slingshotting your spaceship around the sun to achieve escape velocity to get through time to a particular event in the past, nonsense. That's nonsense. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
That's just nonsense.
Thank you for that insight, Geoff.
Time does not work that way.
All right.
So yeah.
So anything more to say about Green Lantern Emerald Knight? John Stewart, Emerald Knight.
Answer questions. If I tell you things, I might be giving stuff away. I want people to buy the freaking comic.
Yeah.
all I can tell you is everyone who may think that this is literally just a band-aid to get you from 12, Green Lantern 12 to Dark Crisis #1, you're in for a big disappointment because that is not what I wrote. What I wrote was an adventure starring John Stewart in the Emerald Knights.
Yeah, and that would be boring.
I know it's not filler. Like, I have time to write filler. I have time for that. So, so yeah, it's definitely going to introduce some new stuff. It's going to talk about some fundamental things in the DCU that are talked about in, I hope, an intelligent way. It's going to address the fact that there have been so many changes. One of the things that the Green Lantern run, even though we may only get to see 1/3 of it, was actually about was all of the changes that the DC Comics have undergone over the last close to a century. All the character revamps, all of the different versions of things that either exist or did exist. And remember, we came out of a thing called death metal, in which we were told everything that has ever happened is in, which is it is an internally impossible, inconsistent statement. That statement has no information in it because that's not possible. So what that left was how does each writer reconcile with that statement? You know, and also I think what they were trying to do was create little islands so that you could read two different Batman stories in technically the same universe happening contemporaneously, but completely different things would be going on that didn't relate to each other at all. Completely different relationships are happening that didn't relate to each other at all. And I think the idea was the audience would give up on continuity, right? They wouldn't have to worry about continuity. The continuity would only exist within the book you were reading. So let's say you're reading Detective Comics and not reading Batman, right? Yes, there would be continuity. It would be internally consistent within Detective Comics.
Within its own story.
Within the story it's telling. But if Batman contradicted it, so what? Just enjoy Batman too. I think that was the theory behind that move. I don't think they counted on the fact that there are a lot of what I call stamp collectors in the audience of comics who are married to a very, very rigid definition of what continuity is and what it means and what its value is. So there are a lot of books not talking to each other, basically, or at least not relating to each other in any particular specific way. And as you know, when I came in, I made contact with Bendis. I made contact with Tom Taylor. I was like, is this stuff set in stone? Is this whole thing that you did with the United Planets, are we going forward with that? Like, what's going on with Kelly? The origin that a lot of people said is not true. Which origin is true? Like, these kind of things. Tom, what are you planning on doing with John Kent? I might want to use him. He told me some of what he was. I was like, okay, I don't have any. What you say is going to happen does not give him space to break away to do anything that I would have him do. So he's not going to be in the book. But that's because that's the kind of writer I am. I don't want any of those other writers coming up to me and saying, Geoff, did you not notice that Batman is married to Catwoman? What? You're not reading my book? No, I'm not reading your stupid book. but no, I don't ever want to be the guy who says, no, I'm not reading your stupid book. As soon as you get the book, you know what feet you might step on, depending on where you go. So if you don't check, you suck. You shouldn't wait on your editor to do it for you. Your editor may be too busy. You reach out, or you suck, or you suck. Okay. And so the like it or not, like it or dislike it, that Green Lantern run was mired in DC lore, mired in DC continuity, mired in Green Lantern continuity, like not just reaching back to Mosaic, right? But like, as you pointed out a million times, there are things you Google and you're like, oh my God, Doiby Dickles? Yes, Doiby freaking Dickles. Yes, indeed. You know, that none of that's accidental and it's not fanboyism. That's what you call due diligence as a freaking writer. So there's a whole thing I was going to do with Jessica as a Yellow Lantern, but I guess she's green again. So
she was always going to go back to green, right?
No.
Not even eventually?
Nope. Nope. I told you, these characters need to be unique. Jessica as a Green Lantern is just one more freaking Green Lantern. Jessica as a Yellow Lantern. Look,
Yeah.
I didn't invent that. Ryan Cady did that, but it was a masterstroke from my
It
point
was
of
great.
view,
Yeah.
because Jessica's past led up to her getting a yellow ring. And I was like, what would the introduction of a straight up hero, no nonsense, a hero, an uncompromised hero, which Jessica has been shown to be, a person who was able to overcome great fear, but who had experienced great fear for a good portion of her life, crippling great fear for a good portion of her life. And now she is the person who is now able to inspire great fear. She gets a ring that's essentially the same as hers, except can only do stuff that scares the crap out of people. Right? And I was like, I wanted Jessica to function as a cancer in the Yellow Lantern, that she would have created a rift, because Yellow Lanterns use fear. And you're told in DC Comics that fear is something negative. But fear is a survival adaptation. If you weren't scared of stuff, if humans weren't scared of stuff,
We'd be
wouldn't
dead.
here.
Yeah.
It died out long before we were calling ourselves humans. Fear is a survival adaptation. Okay. So by painting the fear rings as the bad guys, I'm like, not necessarily. Batman uses fear, as has been explored in the Green Lantern, in the pages of Green Lantern, right? He gets a yellow ring and he's cool with it. Like, yes, that makes sense to me. Fear as a weapon used by someone who understands it from the inside, I find that fascinating. And I took my hat off. I called Ryan. I was like, Ryan, yo, dude, I'm running with this. That was a masterstroke to me. So what would have happened is the whole question of where is Saranic? How did Sinestro take control of New Corridor again? All of that was going to be in Arc 2. Now, Jessica's green again, apparently. She was never going back to green as far as I was concerned.
That's a shame. Yeah. That's a shame that they reverted her so quickly.
Yeah. So, but again, I don't know that was intentional. I think sometimes artists use a sort of shorthand and they don't check story-wise, or the editor can tell you, don't worry about it. For whatever reason, don't worry about it. I'm sure Geoff was going to put all the toys back in the box. No, I wasn't. No, I was not. Kyle was going to be a new guy. Jessica was going to be what you saw. And Simon was going to be something new. So that would have been, and John is obviously something new. So 4 Green Lanterns off the board as Green Lanterns. Still in the world, still fascinating, but now they're unique. They're not just one of many supporting this one dude.
Yeah.
By the way, that one dude would have been partnered up with Joe.
Oh, that's true.
Right? And now that no one has a unique ring, Joe's got a learning curve, because this ring don't work the way her ring used to work. And Hal's got a problem because Joe is not a rookie. She's a solo superhero functioning as a Green Lantern by herself somewhere. So the idea of whatever his long-term whatever with the Green Lantern, she didn't care about that. And she's an actual cop. He's a test pilot.
And she's completely unaware of his level of notoriety and fame.
I care about any of that. Why would I care about any of that? So I thought that was a very interesting mix of personalities, because it wouldn't allow for the Danny Glovering of Joe, and it wouldn't create a fight situation. The kind of friction that would happen between the two of them would be fun. It would be a new kind of friction that you haven't really seen before, and therefore interesting to explore. Right? So there was a lot of stuff, some of which could still happen. That relationship can still happen.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in writing it. I was going to set that up.
Yeah.
Right. What else?
Okay.
Yeah, and again, DC editorial knows all this. So whether I do it or not, they could still do some of these things. It's just like, if it's got Hal in it, they know they're not asking me, and I would say no if they did. So, Hal can show up, but he's not ever going to be the focus of any book that
He'll never be your star.
Never. And that's fine, because he's not my guy.
Yeah.
Right? He'll show up and do Hal things, and he'll go away again. right? But somebody else may love Hal. Go crazy. Here's this new paradigm that was set up for you. Go have a ball. That's part of my job, right? To set up story engines for the next people to come in and do stuff with them. What else?
I remember Green Lantern Rebirth when Geoff Johns was talking about how all the four Green Lanterns have different ways of like shooting the ring, and then Kyle starts out as a sketch and it becomes a drawing and everything, and Johns was like it starts, it builds.
They're very complex and deeply, they're the most solid of all of the ring constructs.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then
Hal
shoots a beam,
boxing gloves.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna put that much effort into thinking all of these things, why is the most boring guy the lead?
I mean, I can talk about these things as a fan now because I'm not currently under contract writing Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is Geoff Johns, Hal's his guy.
Yeah.
Hal's Jeff's guy. And if he's going to do that, he's going to do that. Obviously, it's stuck in his craw that he's been parallaxed, that he'd been taken out of the main box, and he moved heaven and hell to put him back in a way that he could not be removed again. And he did a fairly solid job of that.
Yes.
He restructured all the cores. He created all these other spectral cores. You can't take any of that away from him. But at the core of all of that, I like Hal Jordan better than these other guys. So I'm going to do this with Hal Jordan. And I'm going to make it in such a way. And also he's in a position of power in the company so that even when he wasn't on the book anymore,
you could make sure
the ripple effect would continue. Okay. I can't get mad at that. Why would I be mad at that? That's his guy. But other people like Guy. There are people that are mad I didn't use Guy very much. Barely at all. I'm like, well, I mean, it's Guy. Guy is a flavor from my point of view. He's not the meal. But that's me.
Yeah.
Different writers are going to lean in on different things. I had a lot for Guy to do in the next arc, but a lot of it had to do with Kyle's arc. So
yeah, that's unfortunate. I would have loved to see that.
Oh my God. I was going to so make Guy Captain Kirk of the Green Lantern Corps. He was going to be 1960s Captain Kirk of the Green Lantern Corps. Because he's so through with all of their shenanigans by the time he gets home on his own power that he's just like, you guys don't suck. Just give me my ring and let me do my job. I had so much planned, and now I just don't know. But I'm guessing the odds are high that whatever they do is going to line things up more with the show. That is my suspicion. I think that would be a business more than anything else.
What has the feedback been for Blood Syndicate?
People seem to dig it. There was a little bit of there's always some grousing, right? But the problem is, I was trying to explain this to a younger writer earlier this week. Okay. There's a set of people in the audience over here that hate whatever you do. Okay. And there's a set of other people over here. Make sure the camera. Yes, there are other people over here.
Yeah.
Who love whatever you do. Okay. And somewhere in the middle, I think, are the mass of most fans. They're just waiting for the story to, impress them. You can't listen to any of it. You can't listen to any of it. You cannot bend your work to the whims of a fickle audience. And the audience, by its nature, must be fickle.
Would you say that the bulk of the audience, the ones in the middle, are also the ones not commenting on the internet?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
And the proof of that is this. Green Lantern, described by several, let's call them pundits, while we're being polite, under me, many of them keep describing it as it did poorly, it did this. But the real world numbers say that's a lie. The real world numbers say we're close to the range of Morris and Sharp. So if we're a flop, so were they. And they weren't. They just weren't. They did a great job. It wasn't what maybe people might have expected. Diehard Green Lantern fans want Green Lantern to be number 1 or number 2. wake up, kids. That was an aberrant period of time in the history of Green Lantern. Okay?
Seriously, yes.
But like, get over yourselves. But um, we did fine. Tens of thousands of people really liked the book. So that means tens of thousands of people bought it monthly. There are people right now sending me DMs on Twitter saying, "Are you coming back or not?" And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, Geoff Thorne said he doesn't know. That means this. And I'm like, what it means is I don't know. That's why I said that. But the same thing with Blood Syndicate. Although fewer people are reading Milestone in general, as kind of what happened the first time around Milestone.
Yeah.
But of the people reading it, there was a certain amount of discomfort because clearly Reggie and Dennis made some changes to the mythology from the original Milestone to update it to the freaking 2020 whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the original, all of that stuff was in the mid-90s. Lots of things have changed. Lots and lots of things have changed. And to try and do a sort of retro, you know my feelings about nostalgia. So tough, guys, tough. Okay, if you're expecting nostalgia from me, see my name, you should walk the other way, because it's never going to be nostalgia. Never. Okay, I don't like it. But even from an editorial point of view and from a business point of view, it's stupid. Okay, you want to update things, you want to make them present in the now. So we try to do that. And I think there are things that Reggie did, that Reggie and Dennis chose to do, that I would not have done necessarily, but I don't run the company. They make big decisions about why, and they worked.
Yeah.
They're not everybody's cup of tea. You can't please 100%. You're never getting 100%. So there's always going to be some vocal minority of people that are screaming, "Oh my God, but the costume was chartreuse instead of purple." It's like, yeah, okay, you know, be mad, I guess. But in terms of Blood Syndicate, the reviews have been good for the most part. The fan response has been, wow, this is, after what you did, that horrible crash landing on Green Lantern, I'm amazed that you're able to write this well. I'm like, was that a compliment? But
Backhand.
yeah, whatever, dude. People seem to dig it. And I promise you, at the end of issue 6, they're gonna be like, whoa. Like, I was very, writers say this all the time, but you got to remember, some of the things we pitch these companies, we feel are outlandish because they haven't been done. So you're like, I want to do this with these characters. And then they come back with, you want to do what? Explain that. And then you explain it. And they're like, yeah, do that. That sounds really cool. You know? So with the Blood Syndicate, a lot of that has happened. I'm trying to keep it relevant. I'm trying to keep it fresh. I'm trying to take into account that we live now and not then.
Yeah.
I think Cross and the other artists, Sean, oh, by the way, our fabulous Tom Rainey did some lovely work in the book. And I'm trying very hard to keep everything character-wise the same. Sort of, the characters should be recognizable. But story-wise, there's been a big mix. And I think for the most part, people that remember the original are happy. And people who've never heard of it before are ecstatic. They're like, this is some wild stuff going on. This last issue that we just did, we were like, what? You know, I think what they expected was Icon and Rocket were going to come in and beat up the Holocaust. And I have another rule about villains. Again, people will disagree. Other writers may disagree. But my feeling about villains is the villain is the best fighter and the smartest player in the book.
Does that apply to someone like the Joker?
Yeah. You know why the Joker works? Because the Batman thinks too much. The Joker works because he's chaotic. He's always inside Batman's thoughts. That's why he wins. That's why he's scary. That's why the Batman backs up. Let me handle this. You will get killed. I might get killed. You'll definitely get killed. This guy is way more like the Riddler, not scaring Batman. The Joker should make Batman think twice every time he appears. If done properly, he should be terrified, right? To Batman. Like, that should be the one person he's, oh shit, I better think about this. I know we got him this way the last time, but it's the Joker. That last trick's not gonna work, you know, whatever it is. So so I feel the heroes must work. They must sweat. They must take damage, and they don't get clean wins. They eke out a win. And it's almost always a Pyrrhic victory. They almost always lose something massive in order to win. That shows what they're willing to sacrifice on behalf of others, and it shows how badass the bad guy actually is, the bad guy or the bad lady. With Holocaust, he's the sort of bad guy of the Black Syndicate. In the original run, Ivan Velez Jr. had an ongoing book that he was writing. So when he came into the title, he knew that he was going to be on that title for indefinitely. So he could tell these much longer, drawn out stories and drop crumbs here and there, do a very special issue about this one character in the middle of all this other stuff. Well, I had 6 issues. I didn't even get to use the entire Blood Syndicate. I didn't get to use DMZ. I got to show Kwai.
Your favorite.
My favorite. I figured a way to get her in the book, but she's not part of the team yet, right? DMZ hasn't even shown up yet. And as far as this book's concerned, Boogeyman's a bad guy. So there are many, many changes, but all in the nature of trying to get them from point A to point B. The other thing people seem to forget about the original Blood Syndicate is when you meet them in the original 1990s run, they'd already been the Blood Syndicate. They'd been the Blood Syndicate for a minimum of a year. By the time the reporter who comes in and meets them, they'd already been running the island. They had just not been doing it. They were a rumor, and now we're going to come investigate the rumor. But as a team, they'd already been a unit, right? My Blood Syndicate doesn't even exist yet. There is no Blood Syndicate yet. Like, it's just a bunch of people. They're not the Blood Syndicate yet. No one's using those words. Yeah. So people are digging it. Chris has really gone all out to redesign these characters. They were very gracious to let me do a couple of them.
Really? Which ones?
Aqua Maria's wardrobe is, I didn't design her, but I designed her costume.
Cool.
And Masquerade's ultimate costume was mine.
That's awesome.
Didn't have to be. I only do that as sort of like, here's how I'm thinking. If Cross had come back with something completely else, I'd have said nothing. Like, these are not even suggestions. They're just, here's what I was thinking in terms of the kind of thing that they would wear. What you do with that.
Cross is one of the best costume designers in the business.
Oh my God. His updates on these characters are fantastic. So much so that the, what do you call it? It's caused me to change story points.
Really?
Because of the way he designed certain things. I'm not going to say what. Not in a major way, but it made me think, oh, well, if that's true, the way he drew that, then is this not also true? Ooh,
very cool.
New story fodder, So, so this thing's going to go out with a bang. Almost literally. Reggie allowed us to make a fairly significant change to the Milestone universe by the end of this one. Not change from the past, but like the ripple effect of what's done by the end of issue 6 of Blood Syndicate, theoretically will have large repercussions for the rest of the Milestone universe. What Reggie and Dennis choose to do with those repercussions, I have no input on. I don't know. I will probably, I've told them I'll come back regardless of what I'm doing. That is the one book right now that if they say please come back and write a second series, I'm like, you better call me. But because I have stuff I want. But it's selling well for what it is. I don't know what people were expecting it to do. I don't know what the company's expectations are, but they seem happy. There are some people that have been upset that I use untranslated Spanish in this story, and I'm like,
I like that though.
Look, it's another place none of us has ever been to.
Yeah.
When you go to a new place, there are things that people are going to say that are untranslated. Tough.
Yeah, I like that. It always makes it feel like, so sometimes I'm watching Netflix, right? And then there is no subtitles for foreign languages. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm sure if it was really important, they would put the subtitle on it.
We would have translated it. Yeah. Exactly. So it's all part of the flavor of the place. So had a limited amount of time and space in which to give you a sense of what is Paris Island, where they all live. Why is it not Dakota City, which is across the bridge? Why is it different? Why did the Blood Syndicate come from here and not somewhere else? Right? Why am I reading this book about these people? Where did these people come from? Why are they the way they are? You know, and people seem to be digging it. I've seen a couple of reviews that are a little bit confused. I think a lot of reviewers like to try to get out of front of the story and be like, well, if they're doing this, and I'm like, I'm not doing that though. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you could be mad that I wasn't going left anyway. So, come back next issue.
Gonna go ahead and say it. I think a lot of reviewers basically just write fan fiction. It's like, why are they doing this when they could be doing this, this, and this instead? And I'm like, write your own shit.
Go right. But more, I don't want to be combative with them. I just feel like there's a tendency. Again, I'm 50 plus. I've noticed that there's a lot of cut to the chase in younger people. They're like, oh, I get it. This show's called House of the Dragon. There were no dragons in episode 1. You guys betrayed your promise. There were dragons in episode, but you know what I mean? Like, we didn't see any of that in episode 1. We didn't see anything of that in the teaser of episode 1. Like, okay, well, it's an hour long. There'll be some dragons at some point. I'm pretty sure it's right there in the title. I'm pretty sure a dragon will show up at some point. No, now, or you fail. And I'm like, well, I did not agree to these rules. So you can be mad if you want to. But what it boils down to is you're telling a story. The people who are digging it hard. And the people who don't like it, their concerns, I suppose, are legit in the sense that, and I say this all the time, people get mad, every opinion about art is correct. So if you're reading Blood Syndicate and you're not liking it, yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. Everything you're saying is exactly right for you. Luckily for me and Blood Syndicate, there's several thousand people over here who do not feel that way. They are also right. And we're going to pay attention to them because they're spending our money. So that's basically how it works. I'm happy. I'm thrilled. I think the company's happy. They seem very, very pleased to have me come back. I hope that lasts another few months. The way it times out is we're just finishing our season 1, but we were the last of the 4 books, or Duo's 5, but it's sort of set. They're calling that because Duo is a complete revamp of the zombie concept. It's sort of set on Earth M as opposed to Milestone Core or whatever. I don't know who makes these distinctions. I don't care. Okay, but
someone on Wikipedia will.
Yeah. By the way, who cares? That book's awesome. Duo is awesome. Duo is awesome. Okay, but regardless, the way it worked out was I think Icon of Rocket, or Static was first, Icon of Rocket, Hardware, and then Blood Syndicate. So that will be the same pattern again. So whatever they do, Blood Syndicate season 2 will be last in that chain. So hopefully that will give us time for me to see what they're planning to do. I'm sort of telling them, here's what I think. See, I hate calling them seasons, but that's what comic book people are doing now.
Yeah.
Season 2, I have plans for, but my plans for season 2 may not line up with what they have planned for the line. So I have to wait and see whatever those plans are to see how much of what I want to do can even fit. Still have to bring in Quai officially. Still have to bring in DMZ. So, and I have stories for that, but.
Would you say there's a lot more communication within the Milestone corner than
it's smaller?
DC?
Yeah. So there has
easier.
Well, right now for Blood Syndicate 1, season 1, we came at the end of everything. So the fallout from what Icon and Rocket were doing, basically they cleared out the drug trade on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the book, they're like, well, this isn't going to last. We just got rid of everybody who's on top of the pyramid right now. Like in a week, other people will slide into these spots and we'll have to do it again, forever. Like we got to come up with another solution, right? But that prediction comes true in the Blood Syndicate. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, great. That prediction comes true in the Blood Syndicate, in that, yeah, there's a power vacuum, and that's where we start the book. There's a power vacuum in the island. The big drug dealers are all gone. The multinational drug dealing corporations are all gone, and all the locals are fighting for their vacated territory. So that's the closeness of the universe. When I brought in Paris Island is literally a bridge away from Dakota City proper. So what happens in issue 4, Holocaust murders most of the cops
Yeah.
on the island, and then blows up the middle of the bridge that connects them to Dakota City, and declares himself the ruler of Paris Island. Like, that's a big deal. But you know who lives in Dakota City? Icon.
Icon.
That's next door. That's
Yeah.
like blowing up the bridge that connects Metropolis and Gotham. Superman's going to notice. You know, he's going to show up. So the biggest question that we had, and there were a lot of roundtables about this, was, do they show up? Do we have them busy elsewhere? Right? Do we have Rocket and Icon busy doing some other thing? And I was like, I don't know that we can get away with that. That makes it seem like this only happens because they're looking to the left, right? When in fact, this was going to happen. So then it came down to, how do we do that confrontation? I said, here's the way I would initially like to do it, and I won't say what it was, but the problem is Icon is an overpowered character. So he's like Superman. And unlike Superman, Icon will kill you. Like, Icon will come in to kill you. He's not squeamish in any way about that.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to come up with a plausible way, not only for Icon and Rocket to show up, but for them to show up and not look bad, and also for having Holocaust figure a way around their abilities. And that was a very interesting needle to thread, but it was not contentious. We just got on a couple of Zooms. I wrote 3 different versions of that confrontation. One involving lots of people dying who did not need to die. I mean, lots of civilians. And they were like, let's dial that back for a PG-13 book. Sorry. But what we landed on is what I'm very happy with, because, again, it showed how smart the bad guy is. He himself says, if we had a straight up fight, you'd kill me. So
Yeah.
of course we can't have a straight up fight. I'm trying to win. And that's another thing about thugs. A lot of people think, oh, they're illiterate, or they speak English improperly, whatever languages they're all speaking. They speak only street slang and lingo, and therefore they're stupid. Holocaust is by no means stupid. I would describe it as hyper intelligent.
Yeah.
And so not just is he overpowered to go combat these superheroes, you don't want to give him any thinking time either, because that may be the end of you. And that's what we tried to do with our villain. We wanted to set him up in a way that, well, no, we didn't really beat Icon. He outmaneuvered Icon. He beat Rocket. He easily killed Rocket. But Rocket and Icon could take him. So he figured a way around that. And he says it explicitly. Here's what I thought. Here's why you're losing. Right? And then issue 6, again, we had to have, I wouldn't call them negotiations. It's more like the writer is like this, tunnel vision, but there's a larger world. So I don't know what Reggie's planning on doing with Icon Rocket season 2, right? Or whatever the next season is. I think it's season 2. And I did not use hardware at all, because I don't perceive him to be that kind of a hero, that he would come swooping in to do that. Like, he may be thinking about what to do, but this all happens. The entire run of the story only takes place within about 26 hours, 32 hours, something like that. Basically, the guys get off the bus and all hell breaks loose on their island. Like,
Hardware's trying to figure out what to do, and then by the time he
like,
figures it out, the book is over.
The following week he'd come in with a solution. Hardware. But so it is a smaller universe to mess around in. Some of the things I want to do, I'm going to have to talk to the Duo guys about, because I got to make sure that I don't step on their toes with what I want to do. They're not stepping on mine at all, but I don't want to accidentally insinuate myself into what's going on there. More importantly, I'd like to incorporate it properly so that it all hangs together. So Greg Pack, get a call or an email.
That's awesome.
If I'm the guy doing season 2. If I'm not, he doesn't get a call because I call him. I don't know. But yeah, people are digging it. The sales are fine. I always say if the sales are not fine, the first person to find out about that would be the writer because they are aggressively not asked back at the point where the sales are not fine. And so far, that's not happened to me in DC Comics. So sales are fine.
All right. Let me ask you a question going into another company in another medium.
Okay.
Captain America and the Black Panther. How did you get involved in this video game? Are you sad that it's not T'Challa? And
no.
yeah.
I was all of us on the team. There was I think Mark Bernardin listed everyone who was on the team. And there were a bunch of us. There were a couple of people that I've worked with before. Obviously, Mark Bernard and I, we know each other, and we actually ended up doing a Marvel comic together inadvertently. He does one half of one.
Oh yeah.
And symbiotes, and I did the other. We just all randomly got called in on this thing, and part of the reason it is the way it is because we were all sitting there. Evan Narcissus in it, Kayla Cooper. I mean, it was great. I can't say anything that Todd Stashwick. Like we were the think tank. We were the think tank that built the story for the show, for the thing, whatever you would call it. I can't talk any great detail about what it is because it involves so much proprietary stuff, but I don't think people are ready for what this is going to be. The things that they told us they had planned for this particular game, I was like, wow. They showed us some tests. I don't know what you call it, footage, gameplay. I don't know what you call it. And we were like, wait, this is the game? These aren't cutscenes? They're like, no, this is gameplay. And we were like, right now. Right. And I'm not even a gamer. I'm not even a big gamer. And I was like, this is before we come up with any story points. They were just showing us how it would work with another story that they were telling.
That's insane.
Like, yeah, so it's going to be something. I don't know what the title is. I was surprised as anyone that they even announced it. We've been sitting on this for the better part of a year. Like that NDA is like a Marvel NDA, probably double. We were not allowed to say anything about it. All I can tell you is 100% of the predictions about what goes on in that story are so far been absolutely off the mark. They have no idea. They have no idea what we're doing.
I'm very excited to play it.
It will be fun, and it will hopefully function. Well, I like Uncharted very much. It's one of the few video games that I can sit through and really play. And partly it's because of the stories. I'm not a big, like, Fortnite is completely lost on me. I don't understand that sort of battle royale type of, I don't get that.
Yeah, I'm lost on those too.
First person shooters don't do nothing for me.
Yeah.
So, and other games are so complicated that I get into them. I'm like, oh, this is really great, but shouldn't I be writing right now? Go. You know, Uncharted was that perfect sort of balance for me. And so being able to work with basically the head of that on this, it has the same sort of vibe in that it's like you're in a story rather than I'm playing a game. And I would have bought this regardless of me being involved. And no, it's not. I think they said it's not T'Challa. So
yeah, it's T'Challa's grandfather.
Yeah, so I'm not.
And a young Steve Rogers.
We did this. Everything we did on purpose, and more than half the people in the room know comics very well, very, very well, and I think all of the writers in specific know the Black Panther very well. So there were a lot of discussions about which versions of this to use, how much can we do. We don't want to step on the toes of the upcoming movie, of which we know nothing, so we better be careful, you know. Like these NDAs, there's dueling NDAs. So like if you're working on the movie, we don't know anything about what you're doing. Like nothing nothing of what you're doing. We only see what the public sees. So we also have to navigate anything we might do in our story had to be as far away from the movie as we possibly could get it. And yet still make you love the Black Panther. So I think we achieved that goal. Be fascinated to see how it all plays out. Writing the actual dialogue and stuff for video games is not something I do. That is a kind of work that I am not built for. That is a lot of variable dialogue that I am like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
So you wrote the engine.
Yeah, like there's just too many. You'll see, you know it. Different NPCs say different things depending on how you approach them. You got to write all of those different things. I'm not here for any of that. So, sorry, no. I write straight line linear stories. Sorry, but it was great to be on that team. I love and know all of those people, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it will. Definitely will. I mean, I'm not trying to overhype it, but because I'm not a gamer, you should take anything I say about the quality of the game out of mind. I play games, but I am not a gamer, right? So there's the nitty gritty of, I don't know, Overwatch versus Fortnite or okay, whatever, but in terms of what I saw, buddy, it's going to be great.
Looking forward to it. Geoff, what is your stance right now on the current state of animation and streaming?
Well, I think a lot of the companies lean too far over their skis, and now they're getting a backlash about it in that try to make a bunch of stuff because they were trying to flood the market in some way, and a lot of people got hosed. I think that everyone on the people who make animation side is underpaid and overworked, and it's not fair. I think the writers in the animation writing space should all be in the Writers Guild of America and not in IATSE. I'm in both unions, by the way, and all of the writers should be over here with all the other writers because writing is writing. How do I know? I do both. It's writing. Okay.
So without disclosing any numbers, all other things being equal, would you say a live action show pays significantly more than an animated show?
Oh God, yes. Are you kidding? Yes. Yes. It's not even close. And for the most part, they don't get residual payments. I've said this, I don't know who asked me this, but there are very few harder working people in Hollywood than animation writers, because in order to make an actual living in it, you have to juggle multiple projects all the time. There's no residuals. There's no guarantee you're coming back. There's no weekly salary. Everyone's a freelancer all the time. All the time. So as soon as you turn in that script, if you don't have another one ready, you're hustling. Like every name that you see repeatedly, that person's a killer because they are hustling scripts. It's rare that there's almost no such thing as a writer's room in traditional American TV animation, which that is standard. But one of the big differences is in a writer's room for live action, I get a weekly salary just to be there.
Whoa.
I get a weekly salary to show up to work and participate in the actual room where we thrash out story points and character stuff and all that stuff. It's like a round table of people going, I want to do this, we should do that. Why would we kill episode 5? All of that stuff happens with people. And you get a weekly salary to show up and be one of those people. And then when you write a script, you get a thing called a script fee. And that goes up or down depending on your stature and the business and how long you've been doing it or whatever. But there's a baseline. And that baseline is ridiculously higher than the baseline for animation writers. And they do not get a weekly salary because there's almost no such thing as a writer's room for animation. That is wrong. It is unfair. It is unethical. And it should change. these companies are making sometimes billions of dollars with some of these properties, and they would very much like to do away with all of this. They would like to computerize the entire process and have an AI make the art and an AI write the scripts.
Oh, don't get us started on that one.
They're working diligently to get us there. And that mindset is what's caused these pay disparities. That mindset is what's caused these work disparities. There's a bunch of people at the top who don't know or truly care what it is that the people who make the stuff actually do to make it. Animation is labor intensive for the animators. Like the people actually draw stuff, that's labor intensive. They literally get injured if they do too much. Okay. The writers are writers. It is indistinguishable from any other writing game. That isn't to say that everyone can write both.
Yeah.
Just like every novelist can't write every kind of novel. Not every writer can write every kind of TV show. But the job of the writer is identical. The actual way the work is done is identical. So why is the pay not identical? No reason. There is no good reason except Walt Disney decided it should not be so. And I mean specifically Walt Disney, not the Disney Corporation. Walt personally decided it should not be so. And it has not been so. And it's not right. Those people work too hard for the amount of money they get. You see all this yelling about how much comic book writers and artists don't get. The reason they're doing a lot of that yelling is because Hollywood discovered the cash cow that is comic book IP. They weren't doing all that yelling until they realized the Avengers were making $1 billion. Like, well, I designed that Captain America costume. Where's my cut? The wardrobe person on that movie simply lifted my design out of the Ultimates and put it on a dude. Shouldn't I get both credit and money for that? Nope. You signed a work for hire contract. Tough beans, baby. Better read that contract better next time. But
how were they supposed to know? Like way back in the day, right?
That's the only thing. And now everyone does know. That's the difference. Up until the point where people really were like, well, holy crap, look at all this money these movies and TV shows are making. Until that point, you could make the case, well, you know, we own the IP and we're just exploiting it. And, you know, we didn't know that any of this would come about. But as soon as you repeatedly make hundreds of millions of dollars, you do know that it's probably, I always tell people this, the worst Marvel movie that you hate can still only be compared to other Marvel movies in terms of box office.
Yeah.
Right? The failed Marvel movies, those are wins
are
for every
still
other.
successful.
They're gigantic successes for any other movie. So when you call them a fail, you're comparing them to other Marvel movies only. Okay. Well, if I invented Squirrel Girl, there should be a clause in my contract that says you get a whatever percentage of a percentage is every time she's shown, not just a special thanks at the end of the movie. Money, actual money, every single time. The industry does not like residuals. Residuals are something unions forced upon the industry, right? Profit share is, the people who run our industry are not people, for the most part, who want to create anything except more money. And the people who work for them largely are people who are like, rather than make a better mousetrap, let's figure out how we can strip off as much from our making of this current mousetrap. What's costing us, essentially? Where's something superfluous that we can cut? And their description of what's superfluous and what's actually superfluous do not match.
Yeah.
Okay. There are positions that have been erased that people who make the thing are like, why would you erase that position? We need that. No, you know, you already have this. We can pay that person less to do the same job. No, you can't. That's a different job. Well, they look the same on paper. No, they have the same prefix. They have a completely different ending. That's because the jobs are different. Oh, you're just lazy. No. And they reap the negative reward by projects taking too long, projects going over budget, quality drops, and all kinds of things. And I don't know what the solution to any of it is. I know where I stand on it ethically, and I'm a union guy, so I'm going to always be pro the worker.
Yeah.
But it's just so nakedly bad on its face. The amounts of money is on the we're getting dividends in versus the pay scales at the bottom where people make the thing. If you just edged up the pay scales by like 5%, yeah, I guess it would cut into your bottom line a little bit. But we're talking billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that
Yeah,
at this
cutting into the
end,
bottom line would still be huge.
your cost, that cost is nothing. It's a bar bill for some of these people. Like individuals, some of the individuals who are reaping the benefit, their bar bill for the year would change the lives of entire families of people who make the product. I don't know why. I do know why. It's fucking greed, but I don't know why this doesn't have an easy solve. There's an easy solve. It's just you have to want to, and nobody wants to. The people who are making the money don't want to give up any of it. They don't want to give up any of it. They're all Scrooge McDuck, man. They're all Scrooge McDuck. They want to swim in that. Not even because he has fun with his nephews and his niece. They want to swim in that money, and they prefer it if you didn't show up to talk about how the sausage was made ever.
And also, Scrooge McDuck made his money on his own, fair and square.
That's right. Yeah, so it's a whole, I mean, it's all wrapped up in how Hollywood developed and how the animation industry developed and where we are now. And it's crap. And I've been saying this for years. As soon as I realized the disparity, which was on my first Ben 10 episode, and I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? No, come on. And like, no, really. That's why everyone was so confused why I was writing a Ben 10. And I was like, but it's a good show and that's really fun. And they're like, yeah, but you write live action. Why would you even bother with this? This is from people who worked in animation. And I was like, it's a great show. Why wouldn't I do this? And then they started laying out all the reasons why not. And it's similar to writing comics. I could not do what I've been doing for the last 2 years if I had to just live on the comic book salary. The comic book salary does not pay any of my bills, man. Like,
I'm sure.
It's salary. And I guess if you live in some small town in Iowa or Kentucky or someplace, I mean, I live in a major city. I live in one of the expensive cities in the United States, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. These are not cheap cities to live in. So that salary, which has not gone up very much in 16 years, by the way, has certainly not matched inflation for comic book creators of any kind, artists or writers, inkers, letterers, any of them. You're not living in a major city if you're trying to live just on that.
Yeah.
It won't happen. You can't do it. And that's not counting the editors' salaries, which are also too low on the number of editors. Like, all of this comes from people at the top who treat all of this like widgets, right? The assembly lines making cars have become roboticized over the years. And every time some portion of that assembly line became roboticized, a net loss of jobs, not replaceable jobs. Those were not jobs where you, oh, well, Phil's been working with the company for 30 years, but now this robot will do his job. We should retrain Phil and put him over here, or move him up to manager. No, bye, Phil. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Here's a watch.
Yeah.
Okay. That's horrible. It's awful. It's something Dickens would write about. You know, I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you what, talking about it ain't doing nothing. The people that you'd be talking to are not deciding in your favor because every argument you're going to make, they already thought of this stuff and they don't care. So you got to come up with some other argument that they do care about, and I don't know what that is. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's like the people saying we shouldn't raise taxes on billionaires.
Or, I don't know, have them just actually pay their damn taxes.
That.
Like, just pay your freaking taxes. You're already crazy rich. Why are you hiding from the tax man? Well, it doesn't even make sense on its face. If you have $100 billion and the government said, we're going to take a third of your $100 billion. Okay, so now you have $70 billion. Oh, Oh, poor you.
What are you
I'm
going to
so
use that on, huh? What are you going to use that on?
oh, I couldn't buy that next island next door to the island that I just bought. So you see how I can understand why I would hate the tax man. No, you're just scum. You're scum.
I
You're
I
ruining.
once did the calculation on if I had a billion pesos right now, a billion pesos, like how long it would take me at my current standard of living to like run out of it. And I realized it was like 900 years.
It's nonsense, dude. I did a
Right?
calculation years ago. You know about the Flint water crisis in the United
Yeah.
States? Flint. Okay. I did the calculation one time, and I was like, "There's something like I don't remember what it was, but let's just say arbitrarily right now, there's 100 billionaires in the United States, just in the United States, calling themselves Americans, being billionaires. The calculation was how much would it cost to solve the Flint water crisis, right? Guess what? It didn't even add up to $1 billion.
I'm
It
sure.
was a lot, but it wasn't even $1 billion. So if there were 10 billionaires who are multi billionaires, and the problem where all these people are literally dying of diseases caused by bad water, which could be fixed for less than $1 billion. 10 of our 100 billionaires could not reach into the lint of their couch and pull out enough money to pool to solve that problem.
Ah, God. Yeah.
And that's why you'll see me occasionally post on Twitter. There is absolutely no such thing as a decent human being who is also a billionaire.
I
No such-
agree. I completely agree. And I think a lot of it is like people can't really grasp how big a billion is. Guys, it's 1,000 million.
You can't spend it.
You
can't
cannot spend it.
You can live off the interest well, like really well. Okay. 5% of $1 billion every year, you're fine. You never have to work again.
Ever again. With change.
What to go to? Okay. It's stupid. It's just naked greed. Naked, ugly greed. And the horrible thing is, it's human beings work in cycles. It's not like this disparity hasn't occurred before. And every time it does, there's guillotines and pitchforks. And it lasts too long, there's guillotines and pitchforks.
Yeah.
The system that put Vladimir Putin in power exists because of this disparity. France is no longer a monarchy because of this disparity. The United States exists because of this disparity. Okay. But it's sort of global now. And I don't want to be here when the scales are violently retipped. I don't want to see that. I don't want to be any part. I don't want to be near any of that. Just pay people a little bit more money and let everybody relax.
It's one of those things where sometimes I take a look and I'm like, maybe I should really get out of here. And I look at which country I should probably move to. And I'm like, well, nope, can't move there. Nope, can't move there now.
I do that all the time. I'm asking my wife, where should we go? And she's like, I'm not going any place. And I'm like, so you're now going to make me choose when it's time to go, whether I'm staying because of you or whether I just go. She's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm like, New Zealand looks so pretty though. You know?
It does. It really does.
And she's like, nope. So, I mean, I have a lot of plans, lofty plans, but if she's not going with me, I'm stuck. So I'm that guy in the monster movie who won't leave his wife and gets killed. That's me. So
Geoff, how would you like to take this time to plug Red Jack?
Red Jack is just something that's upcoming as a comic book. It's not real yet. I mean, there's a lot of art's been done. I was trying to shop it, but everybody wants too much of a piece of my IP, basically, in order to do it. So, nope.
So you're going to self-publishing on it.
Well, self-publishing is an interesting thing in the climate in which I live. I'm trying to figure a way to deliver a product to an audience that's never heard of it and is being overcharged for the product that they have heard of. So I'm trying to figure a way to digital only is sort of a way to go, but what's held me up mostly has been that Red Jack has been one of the three things I'm working on. Sparks is another, and a third one that I can't even say the title of. Enough of those projects have been in the can, as they say, for over a year, but I've been unhappy with the potential deals that I could get with different companies because they've realized the same thing all these creatives have realized. There's money in Hollywood for that, and they want to have some of my IP. Their problem is I'm already in Hollywood, so I don't need to share my IP with you. I'm not going to unless I'm absolutely required to, and I'm not required to.
Yeah.
So what it's done is held me up in terms of how and where to publish. Right, I can always do it just as straight Amazon. Come get it on the Amazon on the web. And
Yeah.
now that Amazon is also Comixology, anything I publish to Amazon automatically on Comixology. So we could do that route. I like floppies, it handheld, but I've also been looking at manga delivery systems. Shonen Jump is an interesting concept. All my stuff's full color, so I don't know if I want to strip out the color to drop the price, but there's enough work stacked up right now that I could put out a pretty solid omnibus. It's just I don't want to charge people $15 for something.
Yeah, I get that.
And I don't dislike. I support many Kickstarters and many indie builders.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of crowdfunding. I'm just not the guy to do it right now. I find it daunting and I'm lazy. I don't want to
A lot of work.
do extra stuff. I just want to make the stories. I don't want to, figure out a way to sell you a doll or some other tchotchke, for your participation. I feel like you should buy the thing and get the thing, which is probably old-fashioned, fair, but so I participated in crowdfunding as one of the creatives, part of the crowdfund. I have supported crowdfunding many times and will again. I probably did one last week. Right, I love it.
Yeah.
But having to come up with the tiers, the goals, like I'm doing all I can to get the book out. I don't know what else you got. You want a T-shirt too?
Yeah.
I hate T-shirts. I don't even know what a good T-shirt would look like. So and there are many people making it work. And God bless them. Even the ones who I don't like politically or whatever, I think they're obnoxious or whatever the hell it is. But 100% of those people who hang out a shingle and go out into the crowdfunding world, they're brave. God bless them. That's you can't knock that. That's putting your money and your work and your sweat where your mouth is.
Yeah.
So I support not necessarily all of those people, but the concept, I love it. I just don't know what extra thing you would give people that I can feel comfortable doing.
Whenever Carl Kiesel puts out a Kickstarter for Impossible Jones, I'm like,
yeah,
how did you come up with all this stuff?
Yeah, I'm part of his thing for
Section
they've
Zero.
been trying to do Kickstarter. I donated to the continuation of Section Zero.
Yeah.
Right, which has yet to deliver me anything, but I still get the, here's where we are, progress reports. I want people to be able to make a living doing what we do in the arts, but for me to participate, basically my pitch would be, at the end of this, if you give me enough money, you'll get a comic book.
Okay.
Not a poster, right?
A comic book.
Private Zoom meeting for $30,000 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would be embarrassed to ask for some of this stuff, Whatever. Someone will convince me eventually, I suppose.